I was born in 1945, so perhaps that makes me an early baby boomer. Since childhood, I've always loved making art. Since the 1980s, I've made my living as a painter. But I've also made money building and selling boat models. People often ask, how can you part with them? And I say, oh, I've already had my fun. I've always enjoyed making things. It's as simple as that. I like starting with a blank canvas, so to speak, and creating something new. Ships in the ocean have always fascinated me. I appreciate the beauty of boat design and craftsmanship even in a simple skiff. I also love the stark beauty of the marshlands and the docks and warehouses of a working waterfront. Since 1989, my home has been in Lewis, Delaware's oldest town. Lewis was settled by the Dutch in the 1630s. It is now a small resort town where the Delaware River and the Atlantic Ocean meet. But until the mid-1960s, Lewis was, for almost a century, a major fishing port for the Menhaden fleet. Lewis is still truly a small town. Everybody knows everybody. My home and studio are in a house built in 1820. It was moved twice before ending up in town. Today, estuaries and coastal marshes surround the area, bordered on the east by Cape Henlopen State Park, and to the north by the Prime Hook and Bombay Hook wildlife refuges. There is natural beauty in every direction. It's an inspiring place to live and work. When I was 18, I had to decide whether to go to art school or regular college. Fortunately, I was accepted at Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and graduated in 1967. After college, I spent 4 years in the Air Force, and then worked in store design and advertising production. In 1989, I returned to marine painting, and have supported myself that way ever since. I don't approach every painting the same way. Sometimes I paint from pure imagination. Other times, my paintings are composed from scenes I've photographed at different times and places during field work. When I find an appealing subject, as a first step in developing my composition, I photograph it from many angles. Later, I crop and refine the images and tape several of them up over my easel. It's almost always necessary to move elements around to make a more effective composition. Occasionally, I even use my ship models to help visualize how a boat would look from a different angle. I paint on canvas glued to plywood panels, so I can crop an image even after it's painted. I use tight bond glue, which I also use for building ship models. I'll spread the glue on a panel using a taping knife or my hands, and then smooth it out to an even layer to eliminate depressions and bubbles. Once the glue is applied, I drape a piece of canvas on the panel with the tooth running straight with the length of the board. Then I start in the center and spread out to the edges in all directions. If some glue bleeds out, that's okay. It will be cut away. Mixing up what will be a very dark brown, and I'm using ultramarine and burnt umber. Over time, as artists' interests change, so does their subject matter. In my case, I've maintained similar interests for many years, but I think I've gotten more skilled. Of the artists who have come before me, there are many I admire, including Turner, Monet, Winslow Homer, all three Wyeths, Edward Hopper, and a group of impressionists known as the Koskov School. Okay, so at this point, I've got most of my middle values in. I'm starting to cut in my detail and probably at this point I would stop and let the painting rest. One of the hardest things for an artist to do is to decide when the painting is finished. Should I add some clouds to the sky and darken it down a little bit at the top? When the painting is done, I varnish it with gloss medium applied with a brush. I lay the painting flat on a table and spray it lightly with water. Then I squirt on gloss medium and brush it out. The water gives me time to coat the entire surface. Keeping it flat lets it dry without brush marks. If a month later I see something I don't like, I can paint over it, and that's an advantage spirit-based varnish does not allow. I sit on the Planning Commission for the City of Lewis. I served on the Lewis Historic Preservation Commission for 6 years. I am a trustee for the Rehoboth Art League and a board member of ArtCo, a state arts funding entity. I have always enjoyed volunteer work for a number of local nonprofits. I recommend it highly. It is very satisfying. We as artists do not exist in a vacuum. We are part of a community. Frankly, we are usually needed, and volunteer work is immensely rewarding.